In 2023, India officially surpassed China to become the single most populous nation on Earth, reaching 1.43 billion people. For decades, the global perception of India has been defined by exactly these kinds of images. The assumption is that India's defining characteristic is explosive, inevitable demographic growth. This chart tracks India's total fertility rate. Around 2020, the nation's fertility rate plummeted to 1.9, falling below the 2.1 replacement level required to maintain a stable population. The speed of this drop caught researchers off guard. Demographers at the United Nations didn't expect the country to cross this threshold until sometime between 2030 and 2035. Because of population momentum, the total number of citizens will still rise until the 2060s, as the current massive base of young adults has children. But the underlying engine of new births has already stalled out. The world's most crowded nation is no longer facing a population explosion. Instead, it is speeding toward an aging crisis, staring down the demographic cliff seen in Japan, but with only a fraction of the wealth to cushion the fall. A large part of this drop follows the classic demographic transition. When a country modernizes its economy, birth rates naturally follow a downward trajectory. As healthcare has modernized, the infant mortality rate has dropped significantly, falling from 30 deaths per 1,000 live births in 2019 to just 24 today. Families no longer need to have 6 or 7 children to ensure a few survive to adulthood. At the same time, women are spending more time in classrooms and entering the workforce in greater numbers. This increased agency, combined with wider access to contraceptives and the high cost of urban living, has naturally shrunk desired family sizes. But there is a second, involuntary force driving this baby bust. Decades of heavy industrialization have created a severe environmental pollution crisis. This flowchart tracks how contaminants infiltrate the body. Airborne pollution, heavy metals, and microplastics cause 50% of male infertility. Inside, they trigger oxidative stress, damaging cells, and disrupt the brain's hormonal signaling. This damage directly degrades semen quality, spiking clinical infertility across industrializing urban centers. Modernization has shifted the cultural desire toward smaller families. Simultaneously, its highly toxic industrial byproducts are now biologically preventing millions of couples from having any children at all. Those two forces have collided with a sociological paradox. The preference for smaller families is actively eliminating future mothers. In many regions of the country, there is a deep-seated cultural and financial preference for male heirs. Historically, within a large family of 5 or 6 children, statistical probability ensured parents would naturally have at least one son. But modern couples only want 1 or 2 children. With such a small target family size, parents who strongly prefer a male heir are less willing to leave the gender of their child to mathematical chance. The result is a surge in sex-selective abortions. Families are using modern medical technology to guarantee their single child is male, creating a heavily skewed, unnatural ratio of boys to girls. The cold mathematics of this trend mean millions of missing women have been permanently removed from the population pool. You cannot grow a future population if the mothers are never born. By attempting to adapt to the modern standard of a small nuclear family, societal traditions inadvertently activated a trap, guaranteeing an even steeper drop in birth rates for the next generation. This demographic pyramid projects the immediate economic fallout. By the year 2050, India's median age will soar to 38, and the elderly population will more than double to nearly 350 million citizens. Right now, public schools are seeing shrinking enrollments as the youth cohort contracts. Meanwhile, the state suddenly needs to construct a $35 billion specialized elder care economy from scratch. That massive caretaking and financial burden will fall squarely onto the shoulders of a shrinking, overtaxed workforce made almost entirely of single-child households. And this shift is already triggering a fractured political crisis divided strictly by geography. This map illustrates the divide. The faster developing southern states hit below replacement fertility years ago. Places like Andhra Pradesh dropped to 1.4, with populations aging rapidly. Contrast that with the northern states. They maintain higher birth rates, continuing to grow their share of the population. Because federal funding and political representation in parliament are heavily tied to headcounts, The rapidly aging southern states argue they are being actively punished for successfully developing their economies. The panic is severe enough that local governments are deploying extreme countermeasures. Southern states are now offering cash bounties, paying thousands of rupees to families who agree to have a third or fourth child. For many decades, the government poured resources into a war against overpopulation. They succeeded. The crisis is over. Now, the country faces a rapidly closing window to harness its final generation of youth and get rich before it gets irreversibly old.